Hi everyone! Today I'm talking to you about all the books I want to read in the month of June, and things have certainly changed in my plans and my channel and reading because if you didn't already see the community post announcement, I had my baby and I had her about 3 weeks early, which is a fantastic surprise. It's the most wonderful surprise, but it was definitely a surprise. We weren't expecting her to come quite so soon. If you didn't know, I actually already do have one daughter who had just turned 2 on May 22nd, and then my second daughter was just born May 26th. So they were born in the same week, which was very unexpected because the original due date for my second daughter was June 13th. So what a whirlwind it has been. I am here filming only a couple days after getting back from the hospital, and it has been wonderful but chaotic and tiring but rewarding and just all the things. So June is looking a little different than I was expecting. I was definitely still expecting June to be crazy chaotic, but I was expecting to have maybe a couple weeks before my second daughter was born to kind of relax, have some maternity leave time from work, and get some reading in, get some family time in. But that didn't happen, and that's okay. So instead, what I'm doing for June is really just allowing myself to mood read, and I'm really going to be prioritizing audiobooks because audiobooks during my first daughter's, when she was born, they were my lifesaver. Every time I was up in the middle of the night or having to tend to the baby, I was always listening to an audiobook, and that was how I got a lot of my reading done. And it was an activity that really allowed me to kind of relax while tending to all of a newborn's needs. So I love audiobooks. I'm definitely going to be prioritizing them this coming month. That being said, I do use the Libby app. If you haven't heard of Libby, it is connected to your local library. If you have a library card, you just set up your library account in Libby, and it gives you access to your entire library's audio books that are available. And so I use Libby exclusively for audiobooks. So I place holds and grab things as they come available. So it's kind of unpredictable sometimes what I will end up listening to on audio. It depends on when my holds come through or what's available at that time. So I kind of have like an idea of maybe what I'm looking for in the Libby app this month, but there will be some flexibility there. It may not end up being these books that I talk about. And then for my physical reading, I'm assuming that that's going to go down a lot. So for the physical reading, I'm really going to be prioritizing some things that I know won't take a ton of focus power. So like starting a new epic fantasy series is probably not going to happen this month. You'll see I'm going to try to be continuing on with some series because I'm already oriented to the world and to the characters, and that's easier for me to focus on. And then I'm also going to be prioritizing some that I've heard are also really easy to get into, very fast-paced. So let's talk about all the books. And hopefully if you didn't want this life update, you skipped ahead to the books. I'll make sure to put chapters in the description box so that if you didn't want a life update, you could skip ahead. So starting with some carryover books from last month that I did not have a chance to finish prior to my baby being born. So the first one is Sunland Ascends by Josiah Bancroft, which was the Patreon book club selection for the month of May. And I was about halfway through this book when baby arrived. So this is one that I'm prioritizing finishing very, very soon in the month of June so that I can have the live show with my Patreons, or I always say patrons, with my patrons about this book, and I'm really, really excited to talk to them about it. It's a very interesting book. It's so different than anything else I've read, and I feel like there's going to be really interesting discussion with the patrons about it, because there's been quite a lot of like mixed feelings and great reviews and then kind of middling reviews. So I'm curious to chat with everyone about it. So that will be the first book that I do finish, at least physically reading. And then I also have a carryover from my audiobook listening, which is One by One. I have that book next to me. One by One by Ruth Ware. This is one that I had started listening to, got about halfway through, and then I lost my hold from the library. So I'm waiting for that audiobook to come back to me so that I can finish listening to this one, because I was really enjoying it. It had a little bit of a slower build-up, but it was just getting really good. So hopefully I get that hold back soon and can finish up this one pretty quickly in the month of June. And Ruth Ware, for me, has been an author that I've had a lot of mixed feelings towards, because I really, really enjoyed Turn of the Key. That is by far my favorite Ruth Ware. And then all of her other books have kind of just been very middle of the road or a little below average for me personally. Like, my least favorite so far is The Death of Mrs. Westaway. I just found it so slow and repetitive. So I'm hoping that maybe this is the one that gets me back on the Ruth Ware train, because I've heard good things about her newer books as well. The It Girl, I know she has that new one coming out this month. So I really want to like Ruth Ware. She seems to be very beloved, but I've had very mixed reviews for her books. So I was liking this one. Hopefully I can finish it up soon. Then, while I'm waiting for One by One to come back to me, right now my audiobook is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. I'm finally actually listening to it, reading it. This has been on my TBRs for months now, and I'm finally doing it, and I'm really liking it so far. It's such an interesting setup. I admittedly knew almost nothing about this book going into it, and it's really intriguing. Like, the mystery behind it is quite interesting. You're following a nurse who gets hired to basically observe this child. And the reason is this child has gone 4 months, supposedly, without eating. Nothing. Like, only drinks water. And so the nurse is very skeptical. She's like, absolutely not. This kid is sneaking food somewhere. So we're just getting to the part now where the nurse is really starting her observations of this child, and this child has something very different about them. So I'm very intrigued, and this is a really interesting mystery that I had no idea really what this book was about. So I'm enjoying it so far. I really like Emma Donoghue's writing as well, and it's a good audiobook. The narrator is quite good. So I'm actually going to finish this one this month. It was on my must read of the year list. It's been on multiple TBRs. Yay, finally getting to it. All right, and then a couple others that were on last month's TBR that I will be moving over. Some of them, I had a long list of books on that TBR from last month, and it was very ambitious. And unfortunately, I was expecting work to kind of die down a little bit as I got closer to maternity leave, because I was supposed to be kind of rolling off of projects, transitioning projects to other people. And unfortunately, work was unbelievably stressful and was making me very, very anxious outside of the workday right up until I had my baby. So I actually really didn't have a great focus, mental capability of focusing on books this month as much as I was hoping to, which is a big reason why the physical reading really got affected by my mental state from work. So that was very unfortunate, very unexpected. I wasn't expecting all of these projects towards the end of my time to this kind of very, very chaotic escalated place. And it was just very unfortunate, very unfortunate timing all around. So that was a huge TBR. It did not even come close to happening. But a couple books that were on that TBR that I would love to carry over are going to be Helm of Midnight by Marina Lostetter, because this was my patron pick for last month, and I really, really would love to get to it. It's fantasy horror. I've heard amazing things. I don't think it's going to be too difficult of a book to focus on, and so I'm hoping that this is one that is a little bit easier to get into, doesn't require quite as much focus. I haven't heard that it's dense or super complex in any way, and the fact that it has some horror elements, those are like some of my favorite things to find in fantasy books, is when they surprise you with some darker horror elements. So I'm hoping that this is one that I can physically read pretty easily. So we'll see. This is kind of, if I can focus on it, definitely want to read it, especially since it was a patron pick. I really want to prioritize that, because if you didn't know, that's one of the perks of being a top tier patron, is getting to pick books for my TBR. So I really, really want to keep the promises that I make for my Patreon and get to these books. It's just a little bit more of a chaotic time. So we'll hopefully get to this one for sure. And then the other book from last month is Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan. Again, the reason being, I'm already familiar with the characters, I'm already familiar with the world. I've heard that this book improves upon everything from the first book, so I'm really excited to get into it. And hopefully, again, it doesn't require a ton of deep focus, because the first book, I was actually able to breeze through the pages pretty quickly. So hoping to have that same experience with this one. So those are the books that are rollovers that I'm in the middle of. So now let's talk about some of the other books that, if I have time, if the reading gods allow, this would be great. The first one is The Combat Codes by Alexander Darwin. This was so kindly sent to me by the publisher and by the author, who reached out and asked if I would be interested in participating in a blog tour. And I was super excited about this one because actually one of my patrons had read it and absolutely loved it. And I've been hearing amazing early reviews that it's very fun, action-packed. It's kind of like sci-fi fantasy, so it sounded really cool, and I was so excited. And then baby came early, so I don't know if I will actually be able to participate in the blog tour. I would love to, but it is at the beginning of June, so it would be quite ambitious. So we'll see. But again, I've heard amazing things. I think this is one that will be easy to turn the pages based off of the things I was hearing from other people. It says, in a world long ago ravaged by war, the nations have sworn an armistice never to use weapons of mass destruction again. Instead, highly skilled warriors known as Griever Knights represent their nation's interests in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Murray Pearson was once a famed knight until he suffered a loss that wounded his homeland, but now he's on the hunt to discover the next champion. In ruthless underground combat rings, Seago is making a name for himself. Murray believes Seago has what it takes to thrive in the world's most prestigious combat academy. But first, Seago must prove himself in the vicious arenas of the underworld, and survival isn't guaranteed. I mean, how good does that sound? It sounds so fun. So, would love to get to that. Right, and then a couple others. Another audiobook I would love to prioritize is A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. This is one that I believe this author actually had previously wrote several young adult fantasy books, and this is an adult mystery book, so I'm quite intrigued by this one. I've heard kind of mixed reviews, but it is on my must-read list of this year, so it's one that I would love to start listening to on audiobook. If I'm not feeling it, I might DNF it. But if it's good, I definitely want to give it a chance. So it had a really intriguing premise. I recall when I first had selected this one from Book of the Month, it sounded kind of like a genre bender where it was mystery but had some magical realism or some fantasy elements in it. So we'll see. So this would be a good audiobook for me to pick up if it's available from my library. And then we've got two more. The first is The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. This is their newest release, and this is one that was so kindly sent to me by the publisher. This is exactly what I feel like I'm going to be in the mood for, is just a fun, quick, easy romance to get through, and this is going to most likely fit the bill. I've really enjoyed almost all of the Christina Lauren books that I've read. There were a couple misses for me, but for the most part, I really enjoy their books, and they have written some of my absolute favorite romance books of all time. So this is one that had a really cute premise. I'm really excited, hopefully, to get to it. So that is definitely on the list. I feel like I'll definitely get to that one because I will so be in the mood for it. And then finally, I'm so excited about this one. This is truly like my mood totally made me pick this book. I want to be back in this world so bad with these characters. The World of Elon, if you didn't know, it's Michael J. Sullivan's world, where he wrote the Rhaeria Revelations, he wrote the Legends of the First Empire series, all in this world. This is a series of standalone books. Nolan is the first one. It's the Rise and Fall series of standalone books between the Legends of the First Empire and the Rhaeria Revelations events. And by the title of this book, we're going to be following some events that happen close to where Legends of the First Empire leave off. Legends of the First Empire is my favorite fantasy series of all time. So I feel like this is just gonna be one that I know I'm gonna be able to escape into no matter what my mood is, no matter what my focus level is, because I love Michael J. Sullivan's writing. I love his characters. I love his world so much. And I've been so excited to get to this one. It's a 5-star prediction for me. I think I'm gonna love it. So this is one that I was like, if I'm allowing myself to mood read, I'm grabbing Nolan. I was so excited about it. So those are all of the books that maybe I'll get to in June. We'll see. I'm really keeping it very stress-free this month. My goal is to prioritize time with my two babies. I am so excited that they're both here, that we're all happy and healthy. I'm so blessed. So that is my priority for this month. And if the reading allows itself to happen, those are the books I'd love to get to. Did you see any books in this stack that you've read before? What are your thoughts on them? And then what is the book you are looking forward to reading the most in the month of June? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!